Started.
We go.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to our Free Friday coaching call. I want to acknowledge that there may be people jumping on here for the first time. There may be people catching this on the recording. We have over 800 people that are signed up to be on this call or that want to listen to the recording afterwards. So we'll make sure and distribute that at the end. And for those of you that may be joining for the first time, the history of this call and how it came about is my late husband, Rick Gia, used to do the call, and he put it together several years ago after traveling the world for so many years, handing his phone number out everywhere he went and telling people to call him no matter what they needed, he would be able to help them with it. And so when he passed, he had 36,000 contacts in his phone. And let's just say his phone was always going. So this was created as a structure and almost a business system to have in place so that the community of relationships that he built and developed over the year in the real estate industry could still plug in and get some mindset and skill set training on a regular basis. And so we've kept these calls going, and the flavor of them is different now. We are looking at the collective knowledge and resources of really great people in our industry and in our community. And so you'll have people that jump on this call that are brand new agents all the way up to, seasoned, been doing it 30, 40 years agents and everything in between. And as we come into these conversations, we like to keep them relevant to where we're at this place in time in the industry and in life. And we discover that skill sets are transferable. So what you're using in business or what you may learn on this call, you may be able to take directly into your family as well. And so as we jump on the call today, I am so excited, really, really grateful to have the person that we have today as our guest to be interviewed. She is somebody, well, let's just say this. I will say that she is definitely a visionary, because I think it was 2015, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. She saw a vision with the first cloud-based brokerage and made a decision that that's where she was going to do business and life. And as a result, Rick and many of you that are on this call are in business together and business partners as a result of a decision that she made because of a vision that she caught. So what I love about her is that she leads with heart. She is one of the most down-to-earth people that truly, from a single person to masses of people, wants to help make a difference and make an impact. In my experience of her, she only preaches what she practices. And I really, really love that about her. And so, Elizabeth, I want to welcome you to the call today.
Thank you, my friend. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited and I'm honored that you asked me to be on the call. So this will be fun.
Well, it is going to be fun. So for those people that may be just meeting you for the first time, there's a couple of things. You've been in the industry for 18 years. You're an investor, educator, obviously a recognized leader based on the amount of production that you do in Texas, where you live. You hold the title of being the only 9-time Icon agent in EXP. So every year of the 9 years, you've qualified as an Icon agent, which is amazing because it speaks to the level of business that you do. And you're one of the luxury ambassadors within EXP. So you have and you're a mom and a wife. And I know that you are outside right now escaping your family and children. But as I go through those things, and for people that may not know you, that may be hearing those things for the first time, the first question is, how does she do all that? And we're going to get to that. But before we get to that, what I'd love to do is start off on what you were doing before real estate and what had you decide to enter the real estate industry.
Perfect. So I'm going to apologize in advance. I don't know why my video keeps going off. I'm not touching it. So if I go black, then I'll come back. So anyway, yeah, I'm excited to be here and share. I'm an open book. I'll be very transparent. Before real estate, so I went to Texas A&M, and my background was international marketing. My minor was Russian. And so I had big plans to go work internationally. I did Russian. Everybody's like, why Russian? Because I was going to do Japanese. And if I did, it was going to put me behind my degree. And I was like, okay, I'll do Russian instead. So bizarre. And I use none of that now. So that was really, really time well spent. But I went into marketing, and I started doing marketing with companies that worked internationally and things like that. And I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. and go into child protection services and really focus there. My parents and my family had 140 foster children in 20 years. And so I grew up with I had a very unique upbringing, and we saw a lot of things in that I was like, you know what, there's got to be a way to help. And so I had planned to be an attorney to go help children that didn't have the voice. And so what better way to become an attorney than work in a law firm and figure out if I wanted to be an attorney. And so I was a marketing director for a law firm, and within probably the first month, I realized I don't want to be an attorney. And so I was doing marketing for law firms, things like that. My husband was transferred to Atlanta, Georgia. And when I went to Georgia with him, I worked for a law firm there called King and Spalding, which was a huge law firm. And I just, it wasn't, I don't know, it was just very, very corporate. And I didn't really have, I couldn't make an impact. A friend of ours, my parents had worked with a man named Stan Smith. He's a famous tennis player. And so Stan had a company in Atlanta called Stan Smith Events, where they did major corporate events around major sporting events. So if you know Stan Smith, he's the one who has the Adidas named after him. And he won Wimbledon, Australian Open, things like that. Christian, amazing, humble man. And I was like, well, this could be fun. And so they hired me to work with them on the Greece Olympics. And so we were representing American Express. If you know the Greece Olympics, they are usually sponsored by Visa. So American Express couldn't really just go in and say, hey, we're going to take our top 50 clients here. And so they had to hire us. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I was doing site visits and working internationally, doing all these cool things when I had to go to my CPA with my husband. And my CPA said, well, y'all own real estate. One of you needs your real estate license. And I just played like I didn't hear him. And I was like, la, 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 nope, I'm going to Greece. Like, real estate did not sound sexy to me. No, thank you. And my husband looked at me and he goes, well, it's got to be you. I've got the corporate job, right? I've got the benefits. I've got the stability. What you're doing really isn't moving the needle in regards to what we need to do. And I was like, oh my gosh. So went kicking and screaming and got my real estate license. Never had any interest in real estate in that regard. Like, we were investors, but I didn't think I'd ever be doing what I'm doing today. And so I was able to still do what I was doing on Stan Smith Events and do real estate part-time. Went to Keller Williams because they were the only company that would take me part-time. I was in a couples Bible study. 4 of the men in our Bible study were all real estate at 4 different companies. So I interviewed all the different companies. And so KW is where I went and just started working with people that I knew. And I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. This isn't a job. So stepped into that a little bit more, was pregnant with my first child, couldn't travel as much. And so I stepped into real estate full time, became a top producer at Keller Williams. And then in 2008, if any of y'all were in business in 2008, you know, it wasn't the best time in real estate for many, but we were transferred to Austin, Texas for my husband's job. And so I went to Austin and had to start all over in a market where everybody said I was crazy. But I think of opportunity and perspective, and everybody said, oh my gosh, it's a horrible market. Why are you getting your real estate license? And I said, well, I just came from Atlanta, Georgia, and we burst, right? And Austin was a better market than Atlanta was. And so that's how I got to Texas.
Amazing. So, well, I love your sass, first off, because you're like, real estate, that's not sexy.
It's not. Yeah. Right.
We're doing some very sexy things. And because of, I know you and know about you and know things, like, it's become, real estate has become very sexy for you over the years.
Very sexy. Yes. I changed my mind.
Doors it's open and the opportunities that have come your way and the life that you now live as a result of how things have evolved. So what I love about that starting point of your story into real estate is a relocation to Austin, Texas. It's the beginning of 2008. Your mom for the first time, and you're at what historically could be looked at as one of the absolute worst times ever in real estate, period, that anybody that's alive today knows or has ever seen. And here you are starting from scratch and in a place that, you know, let's just say it's different from where you were at before. So for people that are maybe on this call today that are getting into real estate or new in real estate or have been licensed for a bit and haven't really got traction, love for you to talk about what that journey was. Number one, being a new mom and being in the industry in a brand new place, building completely from scratch and starting over, and what that looked like for you.
You know, I think it's the way it's perspective and it's mindset. And it's easy to listen to what other people say and say, oh, you're right. I'm not, that's right. What am I doing? Why would I try to do something different? Because they're all telling me and they're smarter than me. And I just didn't look at it like that. I had one child at the time, he was 18 months old. I had to meet people. The way I looked at it is I had to meet people for me. I had to meet people for him. I didn't even have my license in Texas yet. I was in the process and I was pregnant with my second child. So we lived in a 44 unit townhome community, and I got my little guy and we went and knocked on doors. And if you know me, you know my business is 100% referral. I'm very much an introvert. I am not going to go knock on doors or cold call anybody or try to pitch business in that way. But I will go knock on doors to earn the relationship. Right. And I think in business, if you earn the relationship, you're going to earn the business. So Trip and I knocked on all 44 doors. Hi, I'm Elizabeth. This is my son, Trip. We just moved in down the road. We just wanted to get out and meet you and introduce ourselves because everybody sees the moving van. Everybody's curious. Oh, wait, who moved in down there? So instead of that curiosity, I just approached it saying, hey, we wanted to meet you. So what happened there was everybody wants to know, well, why did you move here? What are you doing? What's your husband do? Who is this? Right. And I didn't say, hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm getting in real estate. I want to list your home. I wanted to earn that relationship. And I never talked about real estate until the very end. They're like, well, what do you do? Are you a stay-at-home mom? Well, no, I'm getting my license here. I was a top agent in Atlanta. Oh my gosh, why would you get your real estate license here? The market's horrible. Right. And so I would just earn the relationship that way. And then I would go back and I'd write them a handwritten letter. It was such a pleasure meeting you, Dorothy. And Toto. I mean, we're so excited to be in the neighborhood. We can't wait to see you more often. And then I just started being consistent. And I still to this day market to them in a very passive way. And it's 2024. And I've sold multiple properties over there just because they were like, oh, it's not just Elizabeth, the real estate agents, it's my friend or my neighbor or my relationship that I've earned that's a real estate agent. I'm going to call Elizabeth. So I built my business that way. I was at Keller Williams there. In 2014, we had 650 agents in my market center and I was number one. I didn't know I was number one because I didn't really treat my business like a business. It was always like a hobby. So I didn't follow my numbers. I didn't really understand where my business was coming from. I would just wing it just because I was meeting people, and people are going to always buy and sell regardless of what the market is. And it's just being in those conversations. And so in 2014, we had 650 agents. I was number one just because I built relationships. Now, that was the turning point for me too, because when I won number one, I came home, my husband was like, let's celebrate. I was like, no, I'm getting out of the business. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm on a hamster wheel. I had 4 children at the time. My husband traveled internationally all the time. I was like, I'm on a hamster wheel and I don't, we talk about God, family, business. And to get to what I was doing that year, it was all business. And I wasn't okay with that. And so that's when I decided to make a change and when EXP came into the picture. But up until then, I was just building the relationship for me, my kids, my family, and people want to do business with those they know, like, and trust.
I think that there's gold in what you said. And if anybody that's got questions that's listening, and feel free to put them in the chat and we'll work them into the conversation. But there's this idea of relational and transactional. And I love the fact that you said you're introverted because a lot of times agents or people will see people doing things. People think I'm extroverted. And I'm like, what? I am not extroverted at all. They're like, you're absolutely extroverted. And it's like, I absolutely am not. I will rise up and change myself behaviorally for what the situation calls for, based on the outcome that I'm looking to create, right? So you're an introvert. The last thing you're going to do is want to go door knocking and asking for business,
Yeah.
but understand the value of building relationships. And so I like to say, and I don't know where I heard it, that business travels at the speed of trust. And
Oh, I like
there's
that.
no better way to build trust than to put yourself out there, to show up, to introduce yourself, just to say hello without an agenda of, I want to help you, who do you know that's looking to buy or sell? Really just putting yourself out there to establish the relationship. And then after putting yourself out there, taking the time to do the thing that very few people are willing to take the time to do these days, because it's easier to put somebody on a drip campaign or some kind of automated something and take the time to sit down and actually write a handwritten note to that person. which I don't know about you, but when I receive something that's handwritten in the mail, I immediately feel a deeper connection with the person that took the time out of their day to physically write it. Send out
Yeah.
cards, count the pre-printed message that someone I know has hired a service to do that. No, it's like pen to paper, handwritten, on there. It makes all of the difference. So talk about I mean, you picked up 3 kids really quickly in the process of that story.
I know. I've got a lot of little Rileys.
You picked up 3 kids, you're now at a total of 4 kids, and you're number one in the market center of over 600 agents. And so at that point in your business, what was, the title of our call today is being, a mom, a wife, a person who has it all in real estate, including the real estate success. So you were clearly creating success in business. Let's talk about what you were doing there first before we talk about the breakdown.
Yeah. I have a lot of mom guilt, and I think as moms we do, and we struggle with that. And so what I was doing was I didn't want to work over here and family over here, and I had to figure out how to incorporate both of them. And it worked really well because, again, I had to find people for my kids to interact with, and so I had them in like a mother's morning out program. And so I was building the relationships in circles that people had similar interests to mine, or they were in similar times of their life as I was, right? And so even to this day, some of my best clients and best friends are from the children's morning out group or swim lessons for my kids, right? And I think they call it like tribe marketing, where you're putting yourself in situations where you have interest with other people, right? If you're a cyclist, get in a cycling club and you guys already have a lot of commonalities, and then there's relationships that are built, and then business opportunities present themselves. But if you go in there and say, oh, I'm going to get in the cycling club because I want to get real estate transactions, I think it's just forced and it's not authentic, and people will see right through that. So I would get myself into situations where I could serve both. So I'm not, and I still have mom guilt. I mean, not right now because I've had a lot of mom time right now, and I love that they're stuck in the house right now and I'm outside. But I mean, I've been able to figure out there's no such thing as balance, quite frankly, in my opinion. But I figured out how to serve both of them. And I've had to really have conversations with my family and time block in different ways to where I have to where I ask permission, where they know their priority, but I can still have my business. As long as they know priority, that they're the priority, then it works a lot better. But if I'm taking away from them to serve my business, then my relationships are fractured, my family's fractured, and it just doesn't run as smoothly. And I also have a lot of help. So I just would put myself there so that I'm not missing school events. And I mean, I would take my kids to school every morning. I'd pick them up. And if a client says, hey, I need to meet with you at 3:00, I'm sorry, I'm not available at 3:00. I already have another appointment. Right? I can meet with you at 9, or I can meet with you at 4, which works better, because then I start controlling the schedule. When I let the clients control my schedule, it didn't work well. They don't have to know that at 3:00 I'm not available because I'm picking up my child. They just know that I have another appointment. What I coach my agents all the time. They're like, oh, because they'll have me on group text. I'm like, don't say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't meet with you on Saturday because my kid has a soccer tournament. Because then what happens is they don't think that your business is important to you, and they think it's more of a hobby, where it's really not. That's your priority. But you can say, you know what, I'm not available. I already have an appointment at 9:00 on Saturday. You don't have to tell them that it's a soccer tournament. I mean, your dentist doesn't say, hey, I'm not available at 3:00 because I have my kid. It's like, here's my availability. So I had to start training my clients in a different way, because what they were doing was running my schedule, and it didn't work for me or my family that way.
So, in this context of having it all, creating a boundary is obviously important. And that's what you're talking about, where you're the person that's driving it versus being driven. And sometimes that's really hard to do in a business where it's, hey, I'm unemployed once I close the deal, because it's not until I close another one, right? And so
Yeah.
that can be really hard not to say yes all the time. But you brought something up that I know resonates for multiple people on this call as parents, and that is the mom guilt thing. Talk about that a little bit, what that means to you and how you resolved it.
I am very driven. I'm competitive with myself. I'm not really competitive with other people. When my husband and I got married, our plan was for me to be a stay-at-home mom. And that sounds great until I realized I am not wired that way. right? And I would always say I work because it makes me a better mom. And I like to be outside of the home, but I was feeling guilty doing that. And so, and I just had to finally set, now that they're older, I had to set boundaries in a different way. So like I block my calendar for 6 o'clock. So then after 6 o'clock, if something comes up with a client, I can say, hey guys, here's what's going on. Or can I have some grace to go take this call? They know they're the priority. So they give me the grace to take the call. Before I was just letting that schedule run with me all the time. And when I was seeing that my kids weren't feeling important and my husband wasn't feeling important, then I realized, oh my gosh, okay, my drive is getting in the way of my family. And I didn't want to, my family was divorced. My parents were divorced. And it was like, there was all this stuff that I didn't want to do. I wanted to break those cycles. And I realized I was running into those patterns where I was making everything else more important than them. So the mom guilt's real. And I think, you know, the way I was raised was I was supposed to stay at home. And that's just not, I just don't do well in that. And because I'm driven and because I want to do all these things, it allows me to give them freedoms. And time freedom is the one thing that they're recognizing, because I've worked so hard for so long, that time freedom is what they crave. And so there's that benefit for them as well. And so I would have to say, hey, if I can work and do this today, look, we're going to spend time and do this tomorrow. And then I have to stick with that. Right. I have to let them know that, you know, if you can give me a little bit of freedom here. And also with my kids in school, I try to make sure I work. Summer's hard, right? Summer's very hard to do this, but I try to make sure I schedule all of my appointments while they're at school so that I can be present, more present. And it doesn't always work. And I fail forward every single day. So I do not have this perfected, but I think the fact that I make the effort and they recognize the effort goes a long way. It's when I wasn't letting them know that they were the priority and I wasn't making the effort was when I had more challenges.
Yeah. So it's so interesting because if you think about 50 years ago, women in the workplace was a very different conversation than it is today. So in some ways, there's the expectations of 50 years ago, you know, that still linger on in the DNA somehow of like, I need to be at the beck and call because, you know, it's impossible for me to do anything other than be a mom. But then this also very much reality that life has shifted to where the world that we live in today quite often is a dual income household. And
Yeah.
then for particularly for women like you that realize like, oh my goodness, I love being a mom. However, I am going to pull my hair out because I want to have it all. I want to have a successful career and I want to be a successful mother and wife. That then the, you know, those expectations start to change. So I I have a girlfriend of mine that she found this, you know, fantastic way to reframe it with her children. And she made her children part of every milestone that she hit in her business. And when she hit those milestones in her business, the kids got rewarded. So they got
Yeah.
on board with her and supported her. And when you think about what being a working mom does, it teaches a child that it is possible to have it all because you know it's so easy to get in this like and or conversation of I can be a great mom or I can be a great business person. However, how do I do both? Because I feel pulled all the time when I'm at work. I feel pulled to be with my kids. When I'm with my kids, I've got my clients pulling me to be at work. And so people will think that it's not possible to do that, but there's value, right? Like the value of knowing there's value in everything, right? So like I think about my mom and she stayed at home with us until we were teenagers and in junior high. And then she, you know, started working part-time doing stuff. And it was great because she was so much happier because she was fulfilled having something to do outside of just parenting, right?
Yeah.
And how healthy that was. But she came of the mindset like it was that was her role was to stay at home and raise children. And then, you know, I have friends that, you know, with careers that have balanced the career and the parenting thing. And those kids see something different. They see, like, oh, look at the confidence that my mom gets from working and the vacations that we get to take because my mom's working and the things
Yeah.
that we can do because, you know, all of those things that are tangibles, intangibles from being both. Right. And so in this, you know, conversation about having it all, the success in business, the success in personal life, those, you know, it's all important, right? And so how do you do it? How do you balance it? So
Well, and
tell
I
me.
pulled my kids into my business too. Like they will line up at our kitchen bar and they help with the mailers and they put the stamps on and they address it and I pay them. And they call themselves the Lux Squad. We have shirts. So in the neighborhood, so I brought my kids into the business with me and they would be rewarded because I was like, I'm going to pay somebody. I might as well pay you. And what's interesting now is to watch, I've got 2 girls and 2 boys. And to your point, I want my girls to see what's possible, right? I don't want them to feel like, oh, they can only do one thing. I want them to see what's possible. And my kids are all incredibly entrepreneurial. And it's interesting to watch them. And I think that it's because they've grown up in the business with me being entrepreneurial. And one thing I didn't want is I saw my husband traveled internationally. And he didn't have a relationship with our kids. I mean, he would come home and he'd be the fun dad for a while, but he didn't have that relationship. And I was like, it's so important for you to have that relationship. And because of EXP, I retired my husband 3 years ago after Dell Computer for 25 years. And what's happened is I've watched that relationship change. Now he has those relationships with his kids that he didn't have before, and the relationships that I have. So he worked so hard to get us to where we were. And so now we've kind of swapped, but now we can be more present with our kids in a combined effort. That is really what it's all about. And we've worked so hard to get there. And I think everybody has their own goal with their family, and you just have to figure out what that is and how you're going to get there.
I love that. So what are your ages of your kids currently?
My oldest just turned 18. He's going to college. That's why we're up here right now. We're here for orientation, which is insane to me. I'm not ready for my baby to go to college. How's that possible? He's 18. My daughter's 15. And then I have a son who just turned 13 and my youngest is 10.
And so 9, almost 10 years ago, so you would have been one on the way and your oldest one 8 years old. You decided to change the way that you were working, and as the number 1 agent in a 600 plus agent office, went what some might say like completely rogue and off the deep end. However, I think this is such an interesting part of your story. So would you be willing to tell us, like, what was it that happened at that time, that was happening at that time? Like, tell us the story of that.
Yeah. And when you first started the call and you're talking about I was this visionary, I cannot take that credit. And I love you for thinking that, but I cannot take that credit. So I was number 1, 650 people. I come home and I said, I am burned out. I'm on a hamster wheel. I'm only as good as my next transaction. When I came off the stage, my broker was like, oh my gosh, that was great. Let's talk next week about what numbers you're going to do next year. And I was like, you're missing it. I'm not going to do that again next year. Because again, it was all business. And I was like, why am I doing this? I had a baseball cap every single year. I had 10 baseball caps that said capper. And while, okay, that's great, that's not going to pay my mortgage. That's not going to put my kids through school. I mean, it's not even a Starbucks card to keep me caffeinated, to keep me going, right? It's like, why am I doing this? So I believe in relationships, and my crew in Atlanta, I had a really strong relationship with all of them, and they kept saying, well, we could all work together. And they all had gone to this little company called EXP. And I was like, nope, nope, nope. And they talked to me for a year when the stock was 10 cents, y'all. Okay. I did not listen, but timing is everything. And so they kept talking to me and say, hey, we could be in business together. No, I was like, nope, I'm good, because I was comfortable. And I think comfortable is a very dangerous place to be. And so it wasn't until I had a little pain and that pebble in my shoe. And so when I'm talking to people, I always want to find the pebble in their shoe. My pebble in my shoe was I was burned out. I was uninspired. I was like, I don't even want to be in the business anymore. And so she's my sponsor at EXP, but she and I would have been a team in Atlanta if I'd stayed there. She's like, listen, Elizabeth, you've got license in both places. You've got your Georgia license, your Texas license, which by the way is very, very expensive at any other model than EXP. And they said, look, we could work together again. Do you want to do the Nest? She had Nest Atlanta. Do you want to do that in Austin? I was like, oh my gosh, this could be fun. I want to work with y'all again. I want to be inspired. And so we went down that rabbit hole for a little bit, and there was too many Nest things in Austin. But at this point, they had me a little bit intrigued on how we could work together. And they said, would you meet with somebody? And you know those people in your life, like Casey, if you said, would you meet with somebody? Absolutely. I'm not even going to ask you who they are, what their name is, yes, right? You have those people in your life. And I said, sure, I'll meet with anybody you want. And so that was Glenn Sanford, who he and Debbie came into town and met with me. And it's funny because people are like, oh my gosh, Glenn came to meet with you. And I was like, hold on, time out. My market center, my one market center had 650 agents. His whole company had 400 agents, right? It was completely a different conversation. And so Glenn comes to meet with me, and I think this is kind of fun because we met at a Regis, shocking. And Glenn pulls out his computer first thing, and he pulls up the world. And this is 2014. Okay, so it's very clunky. He pulls up the world and he's showing me this, and he brings me into an executive board meeting, and I don't get it. And I'm like, okay, what? I don't get it. And he starts talking to me about revenue share. And I tuned out because I wasn't interested in rev share. Now, I had a lot of people that followed me at KW, right? But it created another job, and he didn't understand that, because what happened is they bring in all these people and then they just, good luck. And I felt responsible even if they weren't in my group. So I created this group, and I was trying to help them with their business, but it was dragging me down too, right? So I was completely buried. And so I told Glenn, I'm not interested in rev share. He goes, really? What are you interested in? I said, talk to me more about the stock. And Stefan Swanepoel, which I think is real estate royalty, he had done an article back in 2014 in his trends report comparing the different models. Not one's better than the other, but there was KW, Remax, whatever. And he had written an article and said, the one you don't know about, but the one to watch is EXP. They're the Amazon.com of real estate. And I sat there and I thought, what if? What if I had bought into Amazon when they were trying to sell books online and we all thought they were crazy, right? Life would look different for all of us. And look at what Amazon's done. What if that worked? That could be really cool. But then on the other side, just like when I came to Texas and everybody said I was crazy, what if that doesn't work? I'm like, well, if it doesn't work, I can go to any brokerage I want because they need me. They need top producers. So where's the risk? The risk is staying where I am because I'm comfortable, right? Somebody told me, one of my big leaders was like, man, you took a big risk. I go, no, I didn't take a risk by going to EXP. I took a risk staying where I was because then I missed out on an opportunity, because what if something great happened? So I got that in my head going, there's an opportunity here. I didn't think of it as a negative that nobody had ever heard of this company. I could brand myself. I wanted to get in luxury. So I was like Property Group. I wanted to get back to the basics. I wanted to find the love for the business again. I wanted to work with the people that I could work with again. So for me, it was all up, there was no downside. And so I said, talk to me about the stock. Talk to me about the Icon program. What does that mean? Because there wasn't the Icon program yet, and stock was still new. And he told me, and I said, I want to come because of that. I'm fascinated with that. Because if the stock could change my life, why not? So I came over and I was the first Icon agent name. But here's the thing. I will make a jump, but I have a lot of people that are friends with me that would follow me. And I didn't want to take a risk that could negatively impact them. Because when my husband and I got married, our goal was to just work under one salary. So we lived below our means. We worked on his salary because I was supposed to be a stay-at-home mom. So I could take a risk, which wasn't really a risk, but other people could take a risk and it could negatively impact them. And I would have that. I'm not Catholic, but I have Catholic guilt. Okay. So I truly believe in seeking wise counsel. And I went to my team leader in Georgia and I said, this is what I'm thinking of doing. Tell me what your thoughts are. And he said, don't do it. You're crazy. That is business suicide. Don't do that. I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay. And I went to my team leader in Texas who had just retired. And I said, I need you to meet with me and not tell anybody, because everybody would send my license back. But this is what I'm thinking of doing. Tell me what I don't know. Because I had only been at KW for 10 years. And I needed to understand from other people who had at a different real estate path, what I wasn't looking at or what I was missing, right? And that was Gene Frederick. And so Gene had market centers and all these other things. And I didn't ever go to Gene to recruit Gene. That was never, ever my intention. And Gene wasn't ever interested in doing anything either, right? Until we explored it for 5 months. And Jason Guessing came in town. I was like, hey, can you meet with these people? I just need you to help me poke holes. And one day Gene said, hey, you know what? I'm bored. I'm uninspired. Let's do this. And I go, let's do what? He goes, I'm going to come out of retirement. Let's go to EXP together. And so he had a huge risk, right? They had to sell 7 market centers. And he made me convince Susan that they're going to sell the market centers. If you've never seen Susan Frederick frown, I have, right? She was like, because she's always smiley, but she trusted him my husband trusted me, and we're like, okay, let's try and see if this works. And so when Gina and I came over, I'm agent 466. So there was a lot of risk involved, but I don't think there was a lot of risk because we were so excited because we were starting to build something that we all owned together. I couldn't own in KW. Baseball cap wasn't going to get me anywhere. And so Gene was really seeing the vision in a big way as far as attraction. I was seeing the vision in a big way as far as production and the icon program. And so I was the first icon named. My first year at EXP, my first full year, we had 2,000 agents. I was number one. My second year at EXP, we had 5,000 agents. I was number one. And I had to step back going, what? 650 agents, I was dying on the vine, bored, hating the business, wanting to get out. But at 5,000 agents, I'm number one, and I'm having the best time. I'm so excited. I'm loving these people. What's different? It was the environment. And so I knew we were onto something with EXP. And so I have just built my organization connecting with people that are in production. And that's why I still stay in production, because that's my attraction. And so I'm on 9 icons. My husband's like, get number 10. And it's changed my life. Don't even look at the rev share or the attraction piece. The stock alone and just the model alone has changed my business in a big way. And my business has tripled because of the rooms we're in, the collaboration we do, the conversations and the connections all over the country. And then Glenn does come to me. He's like, you've changed your tune on rev share, haven't you? Yes, I've changed my mind on rev share, but that wasn't the reason I came to the company. I truly didn't understand that piece of it.
I love that. So that, there's a couple of things that you shared in that, and thank you for being so transparent about what that journey was. The thing that is like screaming to me is the confidence that you had knowing that it didn't matter what company you were going to be with, you were going to be a top producer, and because you're a top producer, any company is going to want to have you.
Right.
And I think that in this context, in this conversation of having it all, right, where for someone that doesn't stand in that same space and maybe questions themselves or isn't doing the level of business that they feel fantastic about, to know that that is a journey and progression, that as you continue to improve your skill, improve your craft, every single person can be that valuable in the marketplace because of their ability to create results in the marketplace. You've done that through focusing on relationships, right? And that's not something that anyone gives you. That's not something that any award's going to give you. That's something that doing the work to create the success that you've created in business has given you, right? So you can take that work ethic and you can take that production and you can plug it in where you were plugged in and doing that to KW, and it's going to create one output. You take that same work in production and you plug it into EXP, and it creates a totally different output. But the thing that stays the same in that is the confidence that you have as a wife, as a mom, as a businesswoman in the marketplace for the business that you're doing.
Yeah.
And the confidence to know, like, man, I went from Georgia to Austin, Texas, and started all over. I've got me. Like, you're willing to bet on yourself in every single instance, and because you know that you're going to deliver, whatever's going to happen matters not, because in the end you'll land on your feet, and that's going to be. I think there's so much wisdom in that, right? Because do environments change the experience that we're having? Absolutely. And so, you got in a different environment, you have a different experience, but you still brought the same work ethic, the same care for people, the same attention to relationship. And now you're just doing it on a platform that's opened up, really, essentially, the world is your oyster. I mean, last month you were in Europe, speaking on a stage there to real estate agents in the industry, because we obviously we have a global platform. And so that was not part of your world 10 years ago, right?
Right.
Those things come and they've opened up. So what would you say, like, what would be the top 3 things that you would say, and then we'll open it up for questions. What would be the top 3 things you would say to someone in the context of having it all, that would be like, if you were to walk away from this call with 3 things, what would be the 3 things, or based on your experience of where you've been, where you're at today, what you've developed, what the top 3 things that anyone that's looking to have it all, what would be your top 3 things?
I think the first thing would be just to be really clear on what that is that you want. I mean, for the longest time, I didn't know, and I was spread very, very, very thin. And when I'm spread thin, I mean, I think as women and as wives and as mothers, like we juggle a lot and we can multitask, but that's not always the best thing, right? What I find myself doing is I'll juggle balls, and sometimes I find myself just trying not to drop the glass ones. And so I don't like to be spread so thin because then I'm not as impactful as I could be. And so I would say get very, very clear on what's important to you. And that can change over time. As my kids have gotten older, that's changed over time. So I think once you get very, very clear, then you need to eliminate the distractions, because we can be pulled in 50 million different directions. And I'm a people pleaser, and I'm a relationship person. And I want us all to come together for the good of everybody else. But sometimes I was surrounding myself with a lot of takers, and that's just who I am. And so I had to eliminate those distractions, and I had to recognize, okay, I'm willing to put in this, but who else is also willing to put that in? And I had to, my relationships and my circles changed, and that's okay. And so I had to go through a grieving process, realizing that not all those relationships that have been with me the whole time need to stay with me moving forward into this new season. And that's very hard for me because I am so relational. So I would say, get very, very clear, get rid of the distractions, and then just go for it. And I'd say don't be scared, because I think fear is a natural progression, and fear, on the other side of fear, is growth. But surround yourself with the right people that are going to push you forward and support you. And I call them the board of directors. So I have my board of directors that aren't yes men. I can surround myself with yes people all day long, but that isn't going to help me and keep me accountable or keep me real or keep me grounded. So I surround myself with the right people that are men, women, real estate, not real estate, but it's a very small group that I am making sure that I'm staying on the path that I should be on. And so it changes. And I, like I said, I fail forward all the time, but I know that I'm in the right environment because we all own this company. We're all pushing each other forward. It's not a competitive environment. So if I'm surrounded by the right people, I don't have to question their integrity or their intentions, right? I know as a company, we're all in this together. And so when I support Casey, or Casey supports me, or Martin, or anybody else, that we're all pushing this forward together because we're rowing in the right direction. And so again, that comes back to the distractions, getting rid of those relationships that aren't fulfilling your purpose. But I would say those three things.
I love that. So I would invite anyone that has questions, comments, feedback, jump off mute. We'll take some time for those as we wind down the call. However, I've got all of those three things in the chat. I captured them in the chat for people that may not have captured them. So number one, be clear on what you want, what's most important to you. Number two, eliminate distractions and focus on what's most important. Number three, go for it. Don't be scared. On the other side of fear is growth, and develop a board of directors that are not yes people, which, has a way of keeping you in growth and keeping you true to your path. So I love all of the gems that you've shared with us today. Is there anyone that has any comments, questions for Elizabeth, feedback?
Hey, Elizabeth, it's Leo Robles here.
Hey, Leo, how are you?
I'm doing great. I took so much away from your call, and I just wanted to say thank you for changing my life, because
Oh.
I speak to Gene. I mean, and I've spoken to Gene probably hundreds of calls, and if it wasn't for your, reaching out to Gene for his feedback, I wouldn't be here. And he was the last conversation that I had before I came to EXP. So thank you for the difference that you make, and thank you for the difference that you are.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Thank you so much. And it's funny because Gene kind of got it in a big way. Going back to my other team leader in Georgia, right? The one who told me I was crazy. The other thing to keep in mind, y'all, is people are watching you. Even if they say no, it might be no for now, but it's not always going to be no. Like, right? They're going to watch you. My team leader in Georgia watched me for 7.5 years. I wasn't talking to him about EXP. I was still containing the relationship because I don't care where people are, right? They can be at KW. That doesn't change my relationship with him. He was one of my biggest business mentors, but he watched me for 7.5 years. And he was, I'm in Park City right now, and he was up here for a wedding. And he went to play golf with my husband, and I don't know what was going on then. And he called me and he goes, Riley, I mean, he was at Keller Williams 22 years, team leader for 17. He's in his 60s. Riley, I'm ready to talk. I said, talk about what? EXP. Really? Okay. And so after 7.5 years, he's like, okay, I'm going to do this. I don't want you to talk to me for 4 months. I'm going to be heads down. And so he's been with us about 2 years now. He has had so much fun. He's like, this is the best decision I've ever made. Why didn't I do this sooner? But timing is different for everybody. But if I had pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and just, I tell people, don't EXP on people. Like, I don't talk about EXP, y'all, at all. I'm very passive. I'm like, what? I'll ask a lot of questions, but if I had pushed and pushed and pushed, I would have never had that business relationship with him. And now it's changed his life. So yeah, some people get it like Gene, and Gene's amazing. And some people, it takes them a while, but it's pretty fun to see a team leader that, you know, after so long told me no, decided to understand and see what we were doing and said yes.
And the reason he was able to do that is because you're still here.
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, this is such a, when you have somebody that's successful, like you've created success, and you make a decision, and it's a decision, you know, human beings are so interesting, and that, you know, immediate gratification is a real thing, and making decisions in the short term that cost us what we want in the long term happens all day for people. And what you said is so true about people and their time in life as it relates to selling real estate, as it relates to where they're going to work in real estate, is they're on their own timeline that has nothing to do with anyone or anything other than them. And so as we keep relationships with people for the sake of the relationship, not for the sake of what we're going to get out of the relationship, and it's truly about the relationship versus about a transaction, what happens is, okay, it's 7.5 years later, that's his time, right? But you could have bounced to 6 of the new latest, greatest ground floor opportunity, cloud-based, we're going to do it cheaper, faster, better, different than EXP. And he would be like wanting to have a conversation with you about EXP, and you're not here because,
Right.
right?
Because I'm
But
chasing chasing the shiny object.
you're
But
in
I mean,
business
I would,
for the
and I
long term.
stay in production. People tell me all the time, why are you still in production? And I'm like, because I'm a real estate agent. Right. And Gene's so funny because Gene's like, Elizabeth, like when we first came over, Gene went more the traction route and I went the production route. But think about it. Gene hadn't been in production in years and years and years. He was a team leader. That's what he knew. He knew he was a recruiter. He built teams, right? That made sense for him. That is so authentic. Gene can get on a call and he can just recruit somebody and say, look, this is what I can tell you. Right. And he would give me a hard time. He's like, Elizabeth, come do. I'm like, but that's not how I operate. Like, me staying in production is so much easier for me to have a conversation. Or when somebody in our market says, why are you at EXP? Well, let's have a conversation. Why are you at Sotheby's? Right. And I build so I can have more conversations, like just like Gene can have conversations in his comfortable, authentic way. This is my comfortable, authentic way, staying in production. Real estate company, right? Not a lot of the top producer or top growth leaders aren't really in real estate or in production anymore. I'm also one of the top females. So I think there's a really strong story there where, because Gene will call me all the time, hey, Elizabeth, I've got a top producer. She's a female. I need you to talk to her. Right. I think we all help each other out in big ways. But if I was just sitting back, not doing production, like I wouldn't feel that I was really adding value. Like I can do real estate with my eyes closed. So why not keep doing that? Now I can make different decisions though. Not all business is good business. I can turn down business. I can refer clients out or business out to other people to help build their business because of my bandwidth or whatever else. But if I'm not in the trenches and in real estate, I don't have those opportunities, right? So me staying in production gives me different opportunities that helps me, but it can help other people as well. So that's why I don't think Brad would have talked to me if I wasn't still in production. I don't think some of these, my front line, I have 72 on my front line. Most of those are cappers. Most of the cappers are icons, right? So I'm attracting, and it keeps them sticky because now they're icons and they're understanding the value of what that looks like at EXP. So I'm just in those conversations. We're all in different conversations. Everybody has different reasons for coming to the company. And so I'm just attracting the people that are in my circles.
I love that. And it goes back to you being in Austin, as somebody that's new in the marketplace, going and knocking on doors and building relationships, because that was what we thought was authentic to you, was to introduce yourselves to the new neighbors that you were going to have. So
Right.
I think that there's so much to be said for that, is that when we stand in the skills and the strengths and the things that we truly resonate with, and we operate from that place, we're always going to be the most effective, versus attempting to like look at somebody like Jean that you may have mad love and respect and admiration for, that is wired differently than you know, energized by a different conversation than you are, and you attempt to be somebody that you're not, um, and stay versus staying true to who you are and continuing to make your own way. And I think that's true for everybody, right? In an industry that is, it is so individual, right? The beautiful thing is that you're in business for yourself here. You're not in business by yourself. And so we can learn
Yeah.
from each other and continue to learn and grow and, you know, take away nuggets, like so many nuggets that you've shared today. So I'll open it up for one more comment or question before we close out today's call. I know most people aren't on video, so it's hard to know what's
Yeah, they're
going
all
on
shy.
in the background. Yes. All right, missed opportunity.
Wait,
Going.
sorry.
Yep.
Can you guys hear me? Hi,
Oh,
thank you.
yes.
I this was a very powerful call because I'm here next to my baby. He's 3.5 months, and I'm having such a hard time trying to balance everything, but this was exactly what I needed to hear. So I just wanted to thank you both so much.
Aw.
As he's like screaming in the background, but I'm just trying to balance it. But I hear that it's going to get better, and I just have to keep at it and, make it a superpower.
You got this, mama. It's hard. Having a little one like that is hard, but you got this.
Thank you so much. Thank you both for for your time, I mean.
Of
Thanks for.
course.
Sunny, you came on camera. Are you coming off? Yeah.
Yes, first of all, this is Sunny from Southern California, Elizabeth. Thank you so much. I love your powerful story. I always wanted to know your background because whenever you come on a stage or any event, I've seen you as a powerful leader. And that's all. Just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Sunny. I appreciate it. I appreciate that so much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Casey. Thank you for this.
And Casey, thank you for having me here. I will tell you, I'm a better person. Like in my business, I'm a better person in my business because of the people I'm surrounded by at this company. That we were all on islands in these little individual market centers, right? Because we were all competitive, even though we say, oh, we're not, we were really competitive. It wasn't until this model, and my business has changed in a big way, but my relationships, I mean, I wouldn't know I wouldn't know any of y'all if it weren't for this company. I wouldn't have the relationship I have with Casey. I wouldn't know Leo. I wouldn't know Sunny. Like, I am so richly blessed with the relationships all over the globe. And I think that's powerful as well. So I'm a better person. I'm a better business owner. I'm a better leader. I'm a better mother. I'm a better friend just because of this company. So I appreciate all of you for that as well.
Well, we adore you. And while you said you weren't a visionary, you actually were a visionary as you went on to describe what you put together. So I'm not going to let you get off the hook for that piece. However, thank you so much for the investment in this community and your ongoing investment in others' success that we are in business and life with. I mean, you're literally from event to event speaking and supporting and helping, in addition to selling real estate and keeping the family front and fires balanced and burning. And it's evidence. I always come back to that thing. If one can, anyone can, and then therefore I can. And so you're such a great example, really, of having it all, keeping your feet on the ground while having your head in the clouds, you know, of thinking big and always remembering who you are and staying true to who you are, and that humility that comes from crazy mad success when you realize how many people have come together to be part of that success story, and the people that will still be part of that story in the future. So this recording will be housed on Empire Builders Pro under the Free Friday Coaching Call recordings tab in the resources area. So you'll be able to catch it on replay or share it with anyone you'd like. Everyone, make it a great rest of your Friday and enjoy the rest of this holiday weekend. And we will see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, y'all. Have a
Okay.
good day.
Bye.